We're now going to begin our discussion of RxJava's Observable class, beginning with coverage of some of its key factor method operators. These factor method operators create observable streams in various ways, and we'll be focusing here on the just, fromArray, fromIterable, and fromCallable operators. Let's begin our discussion with the just operator. This operator creates an observable that emits the given elements and then completes. The parameter or parameters that are passed are the elements to emit, which are provided as a varargs parameter. This operator returns a new observable that's captured at assembly time. In other words, it's eager. We'll contrast this with the discussion of the observable fromCallable operator later on in this video. Multiple elements can be emitted by the just operator on an observable, unlike the single just operator, which of course can only return one element. We'll take a look at a case study at the end of this lesson where we'll show part of the code snippet we illustrate here. This particular code snippet shows how to use observable just to create an observable stream from 4 big fraction objects. This particular operator is commonly used to adapt non-reactive input sources into the reactive model. Keep in mind that just is always evaluated eagerly at assembly time. It therefore always runs in the context of the thread where the observable is instantiated. Note that the fromIterable and fromArray factor methods we're about to look at are also evaluated eagerly. Project Reactor has a Flux just operator that works the same as RxJava's observable just operator. Here's another example that we'll look at when we take a look at fluxes, where we show how to create a flux stream using 4 big fraction objects with the Flux just operator. Both these operators are very similar to the stream of factor method in Java streams, where this example illustrates how you can use stream of to create a stream of 4 big fraction objects. Let's now turn our attention to the observable fromArray operator. This operator creates an observable that emits items from a Java built-in array. The parameter that's passed provides the array to read the data from. What's returned from fromArray is an observable that will emit the items that were provided in the array parameter. Once again, this factor method operator is used to adapt non-reactive input sources into the reactive model. Here's an example we'll also take a look at later in this particular lesson, where we use observable fromArray to create an observable stream of integer objects from a built-in array of integers. Project Reactor has a Flux fromArray operator that works the same. Once again, here we use Flux fromArray to create a Flux stream of integer objects from a Java built-in array. This is very similar to the of method that's defined in Java streams. You can see here how we're using Java streams stream.of in order to create a stream of integer objects from a built-in array. Likewise, there's also an arrays class that can be used with Java streams via the stream factor method operator, which goes ahead and creates a stream from, once again, an array of integer objects, shown in this case. Let's now turn our attention to yet another factor method operator that's defined in RxJava's observable class. This is the fromIterable operator. And what this does is it creates an observable that will emit the items that are contained in the given iterable. This iterable, of course, is passed as a parameter. The iterator that's passed in here will be invoked at least once and at most twice for each subscriber. And this can be a little bit confusing, so be aware that the iterator may be created more than once. Luckily, all the iterators that are defined in Java collections work properly in this context. This factor method operator adapts non-reactive input streams or input sources into the reactive model. Typically is used with things like Java collections, such as list or set, and so on. This example, which again we'll look at the case study at the end of this lesson, creates an observable stream of integer objects from a Java list collection. Project Reactor has a Flux fromIterable operator that works the same way as the RxJava operator. Here we're using flux.fromIterable to create a Flux stream of integer objects from a Java list collection. This is very similar to the Java streams collection stream method that's defined. So here we're using, say, list.stream, where you can have a collection and you can turn a collection into a stream by calling the stream factor method to create a stream, in this case, of integer objects. Finally, we're going to take a look at the observable fromCallable operator. This operator returns an observable that, when the observer subscribes to it, does certain things. First thing it does is it invokes a callable parameter. And this callable parameter, of course, uses the features of Java Callable, which were introduced in Java 5 many years ago. The returned observable that's given back by the fromCallable operator emits the value that's returned from the callable. As before, this factor method adapts non-reactive input sources into the reactive model. You can see here how we're creating an observable that will emit one random big fraction object. And we'll be taking a look at this when we get to our case study at the end of the lesson as well. Now, unlike the just, fromArray, and fromIterable operators, the fromCallable operator defers executing the callable until an observer subscribes to it. So you want to have an observer that will call subscribe on the observable. This makes this particular operator lazy. And what that means is that it will defer calling the parameter that's passed to it, the callable, until the context in which the callable occurs. And this is in contrast to the eager behavior of just or fromArray or fromIterable. And this makes a difference when we start doing things like running these operators in background threads by using the subscribe on operator that we'll talk about later. Project Reactor has a mono class whose fromCallable method or operator is similar to what we have here with Observable's fromCallable operator, except the Observable's fromCallable operator works on an observable, whereas Project Reactor's works on a mono. Curiously enough, there is no fromCallable operator in Project Reactor Flux class. You have to use kind of a combination of Project Reactor Flux from in conjunction with mono's fromCallable, which is a little clunky. I'm not honestly sure why they did that, but the good news is that Observable has this capability. So that's the end of our discussion of key factor method operators in the Observable class. We'll come back and take a look at some of the more advanced factor method operators in a later video.